We always think arguments are loud. We think the end of a relationship sounds like screaming, slamming doors, and broken glass. But it's not. The most painful ending is complete, absolute silence. Have you ever sat next to someone you love, someone who knows your deepest secrets, your loudest laughs, your darkest fears, and felt like they were a million miles away? It's a strange kind of torture. To be close enough to touch their skin, yet far enough to know you can no longer reach their soul. Human beings are obsessed with words. We write poems, we sing songs, we fight with arguments, text messages, and late-night confessions. We believe that as long as we are talking, we are fixing things. But what happens when the words run out? What happens when the dictionary fails you? That's where the silence begins. And that silence isn't empty. It's heavy. It's loud. It's suffocating. When the silence between you says more than words ever could, you realize that silence has its own vocabulary. There is the silence of exhaustion, where you've argued the same point 1,000 times, and you both finally realize that neither of you is ever going to win. There is the silence of fear, where you want to speak, but you know that the next word out of your mouth might break the fragile peace you have left. And then, there is the most dangerous one, the silence of indifference. The moment you stop caring enough to even complain. Relationships don't usually die overnight. It's a slow bleed. It starts with small things. You stop asking how was your day? Because you already know the answer, or worse, you no longer care. You stop sharing the little inside jokes. The texts get shorter. The emojis disappear. And then, one day, you wake up, look across the bed, and realize you are living with a ghost. A ghost of who they used to be, and a ghost of who you were when you loved them. Imagine sitting at a dining table. The only sound is the clinking of forks against ceramic plates. In the past, this silence would have been comfortable. You could sit in the car for hours without talking, and it felt like peace. That was a connected silence. But this? This is different. This silence is a brick wall being built, 1 second at a time, right between you. Every unsaid word is a brick. I'm lonely. That's a brick. Why don't you look at me anymore? Another brick. Do you still love me? Another brick. By the time the meal is over, the wall is too high to climb, and too thick to break. You look at each other through the cracks, realizing that saying anything now would just be an echo in an empty room. Words require an audience. When the audience has checked out mentally, speaking is just wasting your breath. Think about the psychology of it. Psychologists say that the opposite of love isn't hate. It's apathy. Hate still requires passion. Hate means you still feel something, even if it's dark. When you hate someone's actions, you scream because you still want them to hear you. You still care enough to react. But silence? Silence means the fire has turned to cold ash. It means you have looked at the person who holds your heart, evaluated the cost of fighting for them, and decided it's no longer worth the currency of your words. It is the definitive proof that the emotional bank account has hit absolute zero. We live in a world terrified of quiet. We plug in headphones the moment we step outside. We scroll through social media to drown out our own thoughts. We turn on the TV just for background noise. We do this because silence forces us to look inward. It strips away the distractions and leaves us face to face with the reality we are trying so desperately to run from. So when that same terrifying stillness enters a relationship, there is nowhere left to hide. You are forced to look at the decay. You are trapped in a room with the cold, hard truth that you are completely alone, even while standing right next to the person who promised they would never leave you. It makes you question your own memory. You look at them and ask yourself, did we actually ever laugh until our stomachs hurt? Did they really used to look at me like I was the only person in a crowded room? Or did I just invent a version of them in my head that never existed? That is the psychological warfare of the unsaid. It makes you a stranger to your own past. You become a detective in your own life, searching for clues, trying to find the exact moment the music stopped playing and the quiet took over. But you never find a specific date or time. You just find a trail of swallowed sentences, held breaths, and biting your tongue until it bled. People think silence is the absence of sound. But anyone who has been through a heartbreak knows that silence is the loudest noise in the universe. It screams at you. It reminds you of everything you failed to fix. It plays back every mistake, every missed opportunity, every time you should have said I'm sorry but let your pride win instead. When the silence between two people says more than words ever could, it's usually telling you three things. First, it tells you that the effort is gone. Words take energy. Silence is lazy. When someone stops trying to explain themselves to you, it means they've accepted that you won't understand them anyway. Second, it tells you that the pain has become numb. You don't cry anymore. You don't get angry. You just accept the coldness. And third, it tells you that the final goodbye has already happened, long before anyone actually packs their bags and leaves. Think about it. When we are hurt, we yell. When we are passionate, we speak fast. When we are desperate, we beg. But when we are completely, utterly done, we say nothing. Absolute zero. When a house key is placed on the kitchen counter, it doesn't make a loud sound, but it resonates like thunder. It says, I tried. You tried. We failed. And there is nothing left to negotiate. But here is the truth that no one tells you about the heavy silence: it is also a teacher. It takes time, sometimes months, sometimes years, to understand what that silence was actually trying to do. It wasn't just destroying your past, it was clearing space for your future. Sometimes, we force words into spaces where they don't belong. We try to fix things that are fundamentally broken. We use words like glue, trying to hold together shattered glass, only to cut our own fingers in the process. The silence, as brutal as it is honest. It doesn't lie. Words can deceive you, someone can say I love you while treating you like an afterthought. But the silence? The cold, distant silence never lies. It tells you exactly where you stand. When you finally accept that silence, the pain begins to shift. It evolves from the silence of resentment into the silence of peace. You stop waiting for the phone to ring. You stop drafting paragraphs in your head that you know you'll never send. You stop asking why because the silence has already given you the answer. The answer is, it is over. And that is okay. So, if you are currently sitting in that quiet room, if you are looking at someone you love and feeling the crushing weight of everything that isn't being said, take a deep breath. Don't force the words. Don't scream into the void. Listen to what the quiet is telling you. Respect it. Because sometimes, the closure you are looking for isn't hidden in a long conversation or a dramatic apology. Sometimes, the closure is right there, in the quiet space between your heartbeat and theirs. A space that gently whispers, it's time to let go. Because in the end, the silence between us really did say more than words ever could.